Hello, I'm Colonel Michael Greenberg, Fort Belvoir Garrison Commander. Thank you for joining us for our reopening Fort Belvoir Facebook Town Hall. Believe it or not, this is our 16th Town Hall over the series. Through these Town Hall forums, we provide updates on our current framework for our recovery, and as we continue to combat the coronavirus and safely increase the availability of services and facilities here on the installation. We will also address questions in this forum. Please continue to tag us in your questions and use hashtag #AskBelvoir. My staff and the hospital staff will continue to monitor and post responses to your questions in the comment section on Facebook, on the Facebook page, and on our website. Once again, I'm joined by my battle buddy and shipmate, Captain Cindy Judy, the director of the Fort Belvoir Community Hospital. I appreciate her support and her team as we continue to do this together and we continue to host this town hall. We're both privileged and honored to be joined by our special guest today, Dr. Nardis King, the Assistant Superintendent for Region 3 for Fairfax County Public Schools. Region 3 includes schools attended by many of our Fort Belvoir military-connected children. Our special guest, Dr. King, is here today to provide an education update, and she'll have an opportunity to address your questions as we progress on. Dr. King, you have anything you want to say up front?
I'm just glad to be here, I hope.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us today.
No, thank you.
And finally, before I turn it back over to Captain Judy, I just want to share that Army Emergency Relief is having a special month-long fundraising campaign to support our soldiers, families, and soldiers for life. And Captain Judy always brings her little picture or memento, so today I decided to bring one as well. And so again, this just supports the Army Emergency Relief Campaign. And then also, I always like to bring in our newspaper. So if you go on page 3 of our newspaper, we also talk of the different options. And AER really is an Army nonprofit organization. It offers a variety of assistance options, from homeschool expenses to vehicle repairs. You can read about it, like I said, in the newspaper. And while this is an Army's support campaign, I encourage our Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, and Coast Guard communities to look into supporting their service relief agencies. This is the best of the military taking care of our own during this challenging time. I'll turn it over to Captain Judy.
Hey, thanks, Colonel Greenberg. So, I always start off with a thank you, and so this week's thank you really goes out to the IT professionals that support this community and this installation. From video teleconferences and virtual meetings, virtual appointments, virtual school, since we've got our school colleagues here with us. Really, every mission on this installation has been impacted and been supported by a whole army of IT professionals, and I just want to say thank you so much. We couldn't do our mission without you, and we're appreciative of all of the efforts and the hours that those folks have put in, so thanks so much. A little bit about what's going on in the world of the pandemic, right? So I get a lot of questions about, we're hearing increases in cases and things going on. So let me just give you an update on what's going on in Virginia. We look at a couple of things. The first thing is cases. And so for Northern Virginia, we're monitoring the total cases per day. And in late May, they peaked at about 685 per day and then dropped down to about 154 per day in late June. We saw a slight increase over the July 4th weekend to about 175 a day, and that's based on the rolling 7-day average for those of you who are tracking those statistics. The rest of Virginia, excluding Northern Virginia, peaked at about 518 cases per day on June 1st and then dropped to about 330 by mid-June. There's been a slow and steady increase over the past few weeks, and they're currently averaging about 441 cases per day. So they're seeing a rise in the number of cases per day. So the next thing that people generally say is, well, that's because we're doing more testing. And they're not wrong, right? So that is true. There's a lot more testing that's going on as compared to previous weeks. And so the next metric that we really look at is that percent positivity when it comes to testing. And so for Northern Virginia, we saw a slight increase in that percent positivity. So what that means is we are seeing more positives in addition. So it's not just because of the increase in testing but we're seeing that a slight increase in the percent of positives that are coming from that broader pool of testing. And so that's why we've seen some increase. So we have gone from about 7.5 to 8.4% positivity in Northern Virginia. We're lagging a little bit behind the rest of Virginia, but I have to tell you that the rest of Virginia has crept up a little bit from about 5.5 to 6 to 6.5% as well. So both things are impacted. I'll turn it over to you again, and we can talk about school a little later on if that's okay.
Okay, no, that's great.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to provide just a couple of updates for the reopening plan. So first, we are green, unrestricted. That's different from about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we were also at Health Protection Condition Charlie. We had our little sign up, and we said it was going to open the following week, and we did. We did open, and we are currently at Health Protection Condition Bravo. And this obviously impacts our reopening of Belvoir. On July 8th, the Graves Fitness Center did open its doors to active duty and first responders only. There are a number of procedures and guidelines in place that you need to be aware of. Some of the changes right now at Graves Gym, so maximum of 40 people in the gym at one point. Our workouts are limited to 90 minutes, starting on the even hours, so 06, 08, 10. Hour and a half to work out, 30 minutes for us to actually clean. Wear masks going in and out of the facilities, and then if you're using the weights, you use face coverings as well for that. We'll post a flyer out there. If you can please post that flyer about the gyms, you'll see additional information on that. This weekend, and I know religious services has been a topic of many discussions. So we are expanding on July 12th, Sunday. Religious services will resume to in-person services at all chapels. So there are some changes, and this is in addition to our virtual services. So you'll either be able to attend in person or still watch it. The attendance will be limited to 50 people. It'll be a pre-registration. So you'll be able to pre-register. The pre-registration should go out tonight or today, probably as we're doing this. So you'll pre-register for your services. If there is, let's say, 30 people that have pre-registered for a service, and the maximum is 50 people, and there are additional slots, if you do walk up to the door and there are additional slots to enter, you can go into the service. But if you do pre-register, that spot is held for you, and so I want to make sure you understand that as well. And again, if you can find more information on Facebook page, type in Fort Belvoir RSO. So here's a recap of what we have done in the last couple weeks. So our child development centers have opened for mission essential personnel only. I think Mr. Dixon will talk a little bit more about the specifics. But as we talked about 2 weeks ago, we did send out our first 250 notifications to parents and ask them, one, if they're going to use the services, and two, which date, beginning of July, middle of July, or end of July that they're going to use. We then subsequently after that sent out another 100 notifications and another 100 notifications. So those notifications are out. As those responses come back, we will continue to expand out those services. Again, our FMWR director will talk a bit more about the specifics, but it's a lot more complicated than exactly where you're on the priority list, because age also plays a role into that. We did open our golf course last week as well. Golf course, if you haven't seen it, is very pretty. It's very well maintained, and I know the golfers are happy. I appreciate all the golfers that are using the protocols as outlined. We have not seen anyone go outside the realm, and they are following all procedures, so thank you. We have opened out our outdoor rec parks, Castle Park, Soldier States Park, and Anderson Parks, and individual small pavilions. Our reservations, again, in those parks are limited to 50 people at the parks and 15 people at the pavilions. We also did open our community center, our FMWR, our library, and Bizzelli's Deli are all open. Bizzelli's is limited to only curbside pickup with indoor seating at 50% capacity, and the library is open for online book reservations. I think there's a couple questions we'll answer about the library here in a little bit. I also want to announce we have established a drive-in movie, and so we know that people want to get out and do things. So we are going to show our first showing on July 31st. Very exciting. We will announce on the 15th of July what that movie is, and then ticket sales will go on immediately following that. Location will also be announced at that time. The movie will be limited to 60 cars for the first movie. Again, we're gonna expand this out and start slow, but we are very excited to announce that new opportunity here on the installation. So continue to follow our Facebook pages and go to the Fort Belvoir website homepage for additional reopening announcements. So now I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce Dr. King and allow her to address the community. But Dr. King began her career in Fairfax County Public Schools as an administrative assistant in Hunt Valley Elementary School. She served as the Mount Vernon High School principal for 9 years and was recognized as the first year principal of the year in 2007. Dr. King has been a tremendous supporter of our military children, and today she is here to provide an update. If you have questions, please post those. We'll try to answer those as well during our town hall. If we run out of time or there are questions that we can't answer today, Dr. King will reach back out to our school liaison officers, and our school liaison officers will post those information. Also, if you could provide on Facebook the email address of our school liaison officers for everyone to have. And so with that, it's my honor to introduce Dr. King.
Thank you, Colonel Greenberg. You know, I'm part of a retired military family. My father served in the Air Force for 23 years. My husband served in the Army for 25 years, and my son has been currently a captain in the Army, and he's been in for 8 years. So we are all about the Army. Even though I was raised on an Air Force base, I'm all Army. My dad knows that. So thank you for letting me come today to talk to the community a little bit about schools. I know that parents are having huge anxieties, along with staff members, about decisions that they have to make that's in the best interest of their kids. And if you've been following along on Fairfax, our superintendent has been hosting town hall meetings, and we also have an FAQ listed on our website with about 75 questions that are answered that were the most popular questions that were being asked. But we know that there's still questions out there that people have. I'm going to try and answer some today. And like Colonel Greenberg said, if I don't have the answer to your question, we'll make sure that we reach out to Jamie and make sure she gets those questions answered. So I'm going to start off with some of the questions that Colonel said. But before I do that, I just want to remind everybody that it's very, very important that you respond to the survey about your family's choice. The date has been extended. It was originally July 10th, but it's now extended to July 15th. And it's very, very important that you let the school know what your decision will be. I know that the primary and upper schools still have about 500 families each that they're waiting to hear from. And in order for us to properly plan for the return of your kids, it's important that you let us know what your choice will be. In stating that, I do know that there's still questions that you want answers to before you make those choices. So I'm going to do the best that I can to answer some that were provided to us. But the two choices again is full-time online instruction, where you will meet with a teacher from 2.5 to 3.5 hours a day, 4 days a week. Or a face-to-face option, and that face-to-face option, your child will go to school 2 days a week, and they will have asynchronous online or self-directed learning for the other 3 days. The reason why we're going 2 days is because, you know, in order for us to meet CDC guidelines and working with the health department, we have to make sure that we are creating safe spaces in our school. And in order to do that, schools' desks need to be at least 6 feet apart. And in order to do that, we have to cut our classroom sizes in half. And so with the number of students that attend our schools, it's impossible for us to fit everybody 5 days a week. So the best that we can offer right now is 2 days in person. But if things change, if COVID changes or the health department's guidance changes, then that may change as well. But understand that your selection that you're making is for the year. So if you select virtual, then that virtual is for the year as for right now. The only way that will change is if we go back to school 100%, because something miracle happened and COVID either goes away or the health department says it's safe to return our kids to school. So one of the first questions that we were asked, will military families transferring in after July 10th or after August 25th have the option to choose full-time online instruction or 2 days of school and 2 days virtual instruction. So families that move in will be afforded the ability to select instructional options for their child since they were not enrolled at the time decisions were due. Families will make enrollment selection for the 2021 year during registration process and will complete their registration at their school. The next question is, can military families still have the option to choose school based on the planned home location as currently allowed in the Virginia Code 22.1 through 3? Families will be allowed to enroll children in the base schools according to their home location. Families must still provide necessary residency paperwork to their school registrars. And the school choice is afforded to military families that live on post, not military families that live off post. Okay. How will FCPS support mid-year transfers of students needing special education services? Students in need of special education services will be provided services based on the IEP written by their previous school division. A new IEP will be drafted 30 days after enrollment in FCPS to reflect the current needs and services of the student. Next question, will there be technology available to provide a new family, i.e. laptops and MiFis? All students will be provided with technology that they need in order to access school programming and services. So if you move in whenever you move in, we'll provide you with the technology that you need. Will FCPS be able to provide transportation services to new families? If you move in on post and you attend one of your base schools, meaning the school that is assigned to you by living on base, transportation will be provided. If you choose another school because of the right you have living on post, then part of that right comes with your ability to provide transportation for your students. So bus transportation will be provided for students who attend their base schools. How will FCPS provide transportation support to mid-year military students transferring into FCPS? And will plan intervention services support mid-year students new? FCPS schools will continue to support students who transition mid-year, and we are excited that our student ambassador program is continuing to expand to support our incoming military students, and intervention supports will be available for all new students to FCPS. If families live in temporary lodging and their children attend a zone school for temporary lodging, once the family finds a permanent residence, will they be able to transfer, or will they have the option to remain at the school? So our regulation currently states that if it's within 90 days of the end of the school year, a student can remain at their current school. But you always have the option to move to the school regardless of the timeline that you live in that boundary. So if you're living in temporary housing, and let's say temporary housing puts you at Woodlawn Elementary School, and then you move on post, you can move on post as soon as you, you can transfer to the schools on Fort Belvoir as soon as you move on post. If you want to stay at Woodlawn Elementary School, it has to be within 90 days of the end of the school year. Otherwise, you have to move to the school that you're assigned to. Colonel Greenberg, those were the questions that you gave us in advance, and I'm willing to respond to any questions on the Facebook page. I think that one of our awesome principals just sent me a question that was coming from Facebook. It says, is there a timeline for when information about specific safety measures and protocols for schools will be released, elementary specifically, when masks will be required to be worn, required distances, and access to specials, and access to recess and breaks? We don't have all of those questions answered yet, but this morning when I attended the task force meeting, it was stated that students will have to wear masks while they're in school and on the bus. So right now the CDC recommends that anybody under the age of 2 not be required to wear masks, and all our school-age children are above that age, so that they will all be required to wear masks while they're in school and when they're on the bus. Are there any other questions?
Do you have any other questions?
Yes, one question. Any word on whether schools will be delayed opening for 2 weeks?
Yeah, so there's a school board meeting happening right now, and I believe that our superintendent is going to request that schools be delayed till September 8th to give us more time to properly plan for everything. But because I'm here, I'm not watching that school board meeting, so I don't know if it's come up for vote yet, but the superintendent was going to take that recommendation to our school board today. So either log on to the school board meeting right now, or I'm sure that information will be sent to parents as soon as that information is known.
Okay, great. So you can continue sending your questions in, and when we get back to questions and answers, Dr. King can continue to answer questions. I'm going to start off, and then I'm going to turn it over to Captain Judy. One of the questions that came up was, can you explain the open door policy? Apparently a safety issues, or a list of safety issues for the housing villages was sent to the villages and to the garrison, and my team responded, the garrison team responded to contact your mayors. Have you changed your open door policy in light of the mayor program? And I will tell you, first off, the answer is no. The open door policy has never changed. I will tell you, you can go on the Fort Belvoir website, if we just post the link, but you can go on our website and you can download policy number 1, which is the open door policy. I will tell you the open door policy is available to any members, soldiers and civilians assigned to the U.S. Army garrison that fall directly under my command. And that's the applicability of the open door policy. The second part of that, as far as the mayor program, I talked about it last week. I did send out an email to all residents, and so if you have not seen the email, please, or you haven't gotten the email and you live on the installation, please reach out to Villages of Belvoir, make sure they have the right email address. But I did send out a detailed information about the mayor program. And so all your community concerns, please send those to the mayors, and they are the conduit between the residents and the garrison. I want to take a moment to thank our mayors and deputy mayors. They are doing a great job bringing attention to village-wide life health safety concerns and identifying desired quality of life improvements. Continue to bring the mayors and deputy mayors your issues to help improve the quality of life for everyone in the village. We will have our next mayor meeting towards the middle of the month, and we will receive more feedback. Another question came out for DES, and Frank, if you can come up and you'll answer a couple of these, but I'll answer the first one. It says, when are you going to put no parking signs on Trough and 9th Street? The answer right now is we are not putting signs up. What we are doing is we've already made contact with the Wounded Warrior, or the Soldiers Transition Unit, which is the old Wounded Warrior unit, the barracks, and the USO, to request that they help spread the word to their guests, residents, and unit members to prioritize and use the parking behind the barracks and not to park on the street. Again, if there are additional concerns, please bring up to your mayors. We also have gotten DES involved to help with that situation.
Yes, sir.
Frank, if you could answer the last couple questions.
Yes, sir. The next question we had was, why did we close Lieber Gate? And the answer is, at the beginning of the pandemic, we had to close several gates. We closed Lieber, Telegraph, and J.J. Kingman. They all needed to be closed. Reducing the number of access control points allowed for a safer control of our guard staff and better security for the installation. Since the recent return to HPCon Bravo, we've reopened J.J. Kingman 7 days a week, and we will continue to monitor the traffic situation and open additional gates as necessary to facilitate installation access. Next question was, I have called numerous times for several weeks to the police department about the non-working digital speed limit sign in Fairfax Village. The digital sign in Fairfax Village did need some repairs, and I will say parts have been ordered, and we hope to have that digital speed sign working early next week. Also, please be aware, I've also increased the speed enforcement in the village. My last question is there a plan to secure the river in River Village in reference to a missing section of fence behind Hudson Road? I believe the section of fencing being referenced is the wooden fence that separates the marina from River Village. The River Village housing mayor and myself have made contact with the housing community manager, and they've informed us that this section of fencing will be repaired as soon as possible. And sir, that's all.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Captain Judy, and if you have any questions that you want to answer.
Sure. So I got a few questions. One, when I was giving all the statistics, somebody asked, what about hospitalizations? And what I can tell you is that the COVID-related hospitalizations in the National Capital Region have decreased. We're still seeing inpatients with COVID, but it's much less than we were seeing at the peak. So that's good news. I got a question also about testing. And so what's the process for COVID testing? That's a loaded question, I'll be honest with you, because there's three types of testing. I know we've talked about this in the past, right? We've got patient testing, which is somebody who has symptoms or maybe somebody who's been identified as exposed as part of that contact tracing process. So that's the patient testing piece. There's mission testing, or what a lot of the active duty units are now learning is called tier testing, and we're primarily doing tier 1 testing for certain missions at this time. And then there's something else that's on the horizon, but we're not quite there yet, and that's surveillance testing, or supplement 10 is what some people refer to, and so on. And so for patient testing, you can get tested either by showing up and being screened at our outdoor drive-up behind the emergency department. That's primarily during weekdays now, with the capability to be tested in the emergency department after hours and on the weekends, okay? For mission testing, that is coordinated through the testing task force that's led by Major General Payne. And so we've been given criteria for that, and we have units that then are signed up for that particular mission testing. For surveillance testing, we have not yet begun doing that surveillance testing. What surveillance testing is, it's a little bit different than the mission testing. That's the memo that came out for some of you who have had the opportunity to read it, that talks about testing 10% or 1%, depending on which population. I think it's 10% of healthcare workers in the military health system and 1% of particular populations. They are working, the task force right now is working on establishing that capability. One of the limiting factors for that is the increase in demand, not only in the military health system for swabs and testing supplies, but nationally. So across our nation, especially in some of those areas where they're seeing the significant rise in numbers, it's stressing the supply system once again for the test supplies. And so we want to make sure that we have enough to continue to deliver high quality health care, and we have enough to continue those missions. And so the surveillance testing, they're working on a process for that, but they have not yet started doing full surveillance testing. Those are the questions I have at this time.
Okay. Dr. King, is there any questions for Dr. King?
Yes, sir. If we opt in for the school option and PCS near the end of the year, can we swap to the virtual option to allow them to finish off the school year?
So if a student is not residing within our district, once they withdraw from school due to a PCS, then they have to enroll in their new district.
Can I ask a follow-on then? So you had mentioned that it's within 90 days of the school year?
Right, so within 90 days, if it's, so the 90-day rule usually means from one school to another within or a surrounding district, but another state, I would have to get back to you on that. That's something I'll follow up on.
Okay, we'll continue on the questions. Question came up, do they open up more miles for leave? We would like to vacation sometime in the summer. Can we finally leave outside 100 miles? And I will tell you, soldiers need to consult their chain of command. And I say soldiers, but it's really service members. And so every command has different local leave policies. General rule, though, is if it's a red state, there's restrictions in place. Virginia is a green state right now. I believe, and again, someone correct me if I'm wrong on Facebook, but really the 3 red states right now is Florida, California, Michigan. And again, if we could just verify that from DHR. Kevin, am I right on that one?
I need to verify for you, sir.
Okay.
Since you're live.
Thank you. Okay, another question was, incoming civilians are required to go in quarantine, or are incoming civilians required to go into quarantine? The answer, incoming civilians need to consult with their gaining organization for quarantine requirements. Okay, I'm going to call up Mr. Dixon. If you can talk about child youth services and MWR.
Thank you, sir. So the question is there a way to determine where you are on the return list if you were a previous user of CDC services more than general groupings? Unfortunately, not as a placement number. Placement will not only be dependent on available staffing, group size restriction, but it would also be restricted to available spaces by specific age groups of children. As of this week, CYS has successfully placed all Mission Essential designated patrons and will begin offering spaces for single and dual military in the coming weeks. As the Colonel talked about earlier, our goal by August 15th is to be at our new capacity at approximately 800 kids in care. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that, and one of which is our HVAC system. So there are a lot of factors that come into play on whether or not we can provide care. And so we'll do the best we can to make sure that we get to our goal of 800 by August 15th. Question number 2. Hello, question in regards to the guidance for reopening child development centers. The SecDef's memo that was signed 10 June 2020, where it directs child development programs to follow applicable local guidance issued by the city, county, and state government. How is that guidance affecting the Fort Belvoir's current reopening plan for child development centers? Well, in CYS, our child development centers never closed, so we were always open. However, Fort Belvoir CYS reopening plan is strictly implemented and monitored in accordance with IMCOM G9 operation order and FRAGOS, as well as command-driven direction, which has been coordinated with the Fort Belvoir Community Hospital and Army Public Health Center. Other MWR questions? We have 3. Will library books already checked out from before lockdown become due returned immediately? All books checked out before lockdown are due 31 July 2020. If you can't meet that deadline, just give us a call and we'll work with you. Question 2. How do we utilize the online reservation system for the golf course? There's a couple of steps here, so we'll make sure that we post it on Facebook as well. The first thing you must do is call the Golf Pro Shop at 703-806-5902. Again, that's 703-806-5902. To receive a PIN number, once you get that 4-digit PIN number, you'll go to our MWR website, and then you'll go ahead and log in and put in that PIN, and then you can pick a tee time. The last question I have, do you know when the thrift shop will start allowing donations again? And when will they also be open to shop at again? Answer, the thrift shop will start accepting donations and open when we are in HBCon Alpha. Thank you, sir.
All right, a couple other comments or questions. This is more of a comment. So there's been some reports of bullying and harassment by some of the residents against other residents. And so I'd like to remind everyone that the housing areas like workplaces should be free of discrimination and harassment. My expectation is that all residents will contribute to a culture of dignity and respect and allow others to feel safe and respected in the village's common areas. Just it's a general announcement. There was also a question, when's the next housing-focused town hall with General Jones? So the next community town hall with General Jones is scheduled for 8 September. Another question came in, can we announce who the mayors are? Again, I think the email, this may have been posted prior, because there's another question, when do you plan to publish the mayors and their official roles on base? So last Monday, I did send out the email kind of describing, one, having all the email accounts for the mayors for the 15 villages, but also outlining kind of the standard operating procedures for that program. There was a question about Rossville Village electrical boxes. This came up in, I think, last town hall as well. Someone posted. I asked to put accurate information out there. The box in question was not an electrical box, it was a water box. It's basically a spigot, hose spigot that they use to test the water. That has been fixed multiple times. The report says it's unlocked. What I ask is, if you're a resident in Rossville Village that are clipping the bandings, opening it up and using that hose pipe for other purposes, we banded it again yesterday. It does need to be fixed. We have called the water company. It is a water company box. So they do have replacement parts that are coming in. They will replace it, but until it's replaced, I ask that you keep the banding on the box and you do not use the water hose for other purposes. Okay, are there other questions out there?
I have one while we're waiting,
Yes.
if that's okay. So I got a question, will we be doing antibody testing for COVID? And so I know there's a lot of stuff in the media about antibody testing, but there's still currently no FDA-approved antibody test. And what I mean by that is, while there's testing that's going on in conjunction with other things, what they have not yet done is been able to determine whether or not there's any protective quality to having antibodies present in your bloodstream. It may tell you whether or not you've had an infection, but in terms of using it for surveillance or for other means, it doesn't tell us yet whether or not we have protective quality from those antibodies. And so there's not a clinical use for antibody testing in terms of prevention of spread of the disease at this time.
Okay, great.
Is there an update for the reopening of the pools?
Yeah, great question. So the question is there an update for reopening of the pools? We are in the process of looking at opening the lap swimming for the pools. I do not have a date at this time. However, it should be in the next, I would say, couple of weeks. Again, we would start out that process with active service members and first responders that use that for physical fitness, and then expand out after that.
When will the bowling alley reopen?
So the question is, when's the bowling alley going to reopen? I will say that's more than a couple weeks. That may be potentially up to a month. We are looking at the bowling, however, that is a little bit more of a high-risk activity. We're really paying attention because at the bowling alley you also have food at the bowling alley while you're bowling. So again, separation of food, not wearing face coverings, and then a bowling event is a little bit more complex. So I would say at the start of August is probably the time to start looking at that.
When will ID procedures for the gates in regards to scanning be standardized?
So the question is, when will the scanning of the ID cards be standardized? It is standardized. I think someone asked the question, when can we go back to Trusted Traveler? So Trusted Traveler does not have anything to do with COVID. And so, again, if that information was put out that's incorrect, we have suspended Trusted Traveler due to the risk assessment of the area. And so when that risk assessment comes back and we can start to use Trusted Traveler again, which really means that if you have an ID card and you do not need to show that ID card of the other individual in the car. So until that time changes, we will continue to suspend Trusted Traveler. But again, the procedure should be the same. That you should be going up to the guard, the security guard. They should ask you to show them your front, the back, and they should scan the back of your ID card. Please remember, as they scan the back of the ID card, your picture shows up on their mechanism. And so some of the security guards, instead of looking at the front picture, they'll look at their handgun, not their handgun, but their scanner gun for that picture. Let me just. So I did get a thumbs up to verify. So the only red states right now is Florida, California, and Michigan.
I am wondering when installation out processing offices will open again. For future military members, when will the out process return to normal in-person appointments?
Okay, I'm going to bring up the Director of Human Resources to answer that.
Good afternoon, all. That's a great question. This is Kevin Rennick, your Director of Human Resources for the Garrison. I know many are excited to kind of get back to the norm. However, I just want to remind you that currently the Military Personnel Division and all its services is located in one central facility. Therefore, being able to do face-to-face appointments would prevent serious challenges as it pertains to the prevention and also just going against the social distancing outlines. So at this point, we cannot say when we will reopen. However, as conditions, or as we continue to look at conditions, we will certainly revisit and look at operational procedures. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, are there other questions out there? No questions? Okay, did you get any other questions?
I didn't, but I wanted to thank our rockstar principals who are here for Fort Belvoir Primary and Upper. They've been answering some of the questions in the Facebook page for us.
Yeah, and thank you, really thank you, not just to the principals at our elementary school who are here today, but really just to the public school system. You and people don't see, what goes on behind closed doors or what goes on, I guess, day to day. But there's a lot of work, a lot of coordination that goes on between the military and our public schools. So I do truly appreciate the partnerships that we've had over the last 2 years. I definitely will miss that partnership. I know I'll still be a part of the elementary school in art, and I may even come over and do some push-ups one day with you all. So I
We
do
look
appreciate
forward to
that.
meeting the new post commander, but I just want him to know, I'm assuming it's a him, right, that he has big shoes to fill. So, thank you.
Yeah, very much. Okay, closing remarks.
Yeah, so I think it's important, from the hospital standpoint, services are available for folks. So we're still doing elective surgery now. We're seeing more and more face-to-face appointments. We still have folks checking at the door, making sure that if you're coming into the hospital, you have an appointment or a reason to be there. So not allowing a lot of extra people in the hospital at this time. But if you need care, please come in and get care. I think it's also important, Colonel Greenberg's mentioned a number of times that, the installation is in a green status. So we're at HPCOM Bravo, we're in a green status on the installation, we're in a green state. There are a lot of services on this installation. I think that we've got folks living and working from every branch of the service on this installation, and each of those branches has different guidelines. But particularly what you need to know, whether it's traveling, whether it's moving, and so on, is you need to know the color of the state that you plan to go to, as well as if there's an installation near the destination that you're going to, in order to make those decisions with your chain of command. But for folks who are coming here, the first step in that travel is you have to depart from someplace that's green too. So it took an army of people, literally, sir, for you. That one's for you. It took an army of people to get us to green, some of which are in this room, and some of you who are on out in the audience. And so it was a huge effort. And so I congratulate everyone on getting us to green. So I remain optimistic and look forward to seeing what the next few weeks brings.
All right, great. And as always, I always, Captain Judy always starts the thank yous at the beginning. I always end with the thank yous. But again, I want to thank the workforce. I want to really thank all those that are stepping up to the plate to get us to green. And it's been a long journey. And so there are more folks coming back to work. For our child development centers, most of the force is back as we're expanding the child development centers. Our first responders, as always, are still responding to the calls. I know your staff has been busy, so we started these public health assessments with 5 to 10 facilities, and now we're up to 30 to 40 facilities. And each and every week, your staff goes out and inspects all those facilities, and that's truly appreciated, because without you, we couldn't continue to stay safe. And so my hat's off to the hospital as well, and to all the service members that continue to do their jobs. We did not miss a beat. We continue to ensure mission assurance, and so for all those service members and workforce that continue to do the job that they were doing, thank you for continuing to do that job. And to all our contractors out there who are continuing to provide services for this installation to stay healthy and strong and operating, thank you for what you do for us. To all those who are listening in, like I said, our 16th Town Hall. Some of you have been here, this may be your first, some of you have been here all 16 times. But whether it's your first or your 16th, thank you for listening in to the Town Hall. Thank you for your questions and feedback. We do appreciate all of those. it only makes us a better organization. Stay up to date with the reopening Belvoir, going to our homepage on our website or following the Fort Belvoir on Facebook or Twitter. Remember to wear your mask, watch your distancing, and wash your hands. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to the Facebook Town Hall in 2 weeks. So we talked about every other week now. So in 2 weeks on July 23rd. So until then, please stay safe and thank you.